when you look at Browns-Ravens, completely different challenge for this defense than it was. You had Higgins and Chase and Burrow. Now it's Jackson and Henry. That's finesse. That's power. What are some matchups that you think determine this? What are X factors when you look at Browns-Ravens?
Yeah, I think when you're talking about playing against Baltimore, it's always first and foremost about Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry on the ground. If you can stop the run and you make Lamar Jackson beat you with his arm, and he just might do it. If he's going to beat you with his arm on any given day, then so be it. You weren't destined to beat him anyway. That's how good he is. But you try to stop this team on the ground. You saw that happen in the first game between these two teams last year when Cleveland won. And I think it comes down to this Browns front seven playing elite football, and they can do that, right? The defensive line, headlined by Myles Garrett, we know is very good. Carson Schlesinger might be an emerging star. He's going to play a big factor in this. But in our grading, it's going to be a very good matchup. The Ravens had the fourth highest graded offensive line in the league last week. The Browns had a top 6 defensive line in the league last week. So both of those things make sense considering the star power. But if you're going to keep yourself in this, you have to stop the run first and foremost.
And Jim Schwartz has had success at times against Derrick Henry. This defense has made Derrick Henry mortal at times, if you will.
Absolutely. And that's the goal, is to make him mortal. You're not going to hold him to 15 or 20 yards for an entire game, right? But the idea for any back, even one as great as Derrick Henry, is if you can blow up that offensive line and you don't let him get that momentum going with the big frame and the way that he can break tackles and throw guys around with the stiff arm, then you stop him before the engine gets running, right? I think that's going to be the big thing. So as always, it's going to be on Myles Garrett. It's going to be on, I think, Isaiah McGuire, who had a fantastic game at defensive end last week against Cincinnati. Mason Graham is going to play a huge part in this game. You talk about rookies, Carson Schlesinger at the next level, Devin Bush, who's become a solid run defender the last couple of years. It starts in the trenches always, even against a back like Henry. And there are going to be times where he's going to create a couple of big runs, but you have to keep punching up front. That's where it starts. If you get dominated on the defensive line, you look like the Bills last week, giving up 180 yards to Henry. So it's always about the trenches first and foremost.
Ravens secondary struggled against the Bills. Now that's Josh Allen. What do you think of the Ravens secondary when you look at it?
I think it's going to be good. I mean, they have so many big names, right? You talk about Kyle Hamilton, the first-round pick Malachi Starks, Nate Wiggins, Jair Alexander. There's just so much talent in that secondary. Marlon Humphrey as well. They're going to be really good. I think it's just so hard to cover Josh Allen and deal with that problem on any given week. It doesn't matter what the secondary looks like. He's still Josh Allen. I think what the Browns are going to try to do against this team that became very good at not giving up explosive pass plays through the air the second half of last year, emphasize yards after catch. You saw that this week with Dylan Sampson, with Harold Fannin Jr. I think Jerry Jeudy can get in that mix a little bit, right? Maybe here and there. I know vertically it helped them to have Cedric Tillman have a big game when they beat the Ravens last year, but I think yards after catch is going to be a big emphasis. Run the ball, hopefully, stay on schedule, and then try to win time of possession like you mentioned before. But you're not going to get a ton of downfield shots with Kyle Hamilton and those guys in the secondary.